Tony Cartledge. I watched your interview with Jessica Schaub with particular interest because her story seemed so unique. A New Age guru who had seen the light of reason and saw through her previous fascination with dodgy beliefs. I wanted to see where she is now, only to discover that she has reverted to her former indoctrination, even stating on her YouTube page that her encounter with critical thinking was brainwashing. She's now back in touch with her spirit guides and her followers, and she seems to have doubled down on her alt beliefs, which now appear to include COVID denial. I'm sure there's a lot going on there in her head to cause such a dramatic reversal, but I wondered if you'd ever seen this before. People going back to former indoctrinated beliefs, but doubling down to perhaps counter their previous apostasy. Well, Tony, you've described the situation perfectly because it's exactly what happens, and it happens quite often. It's not a rare event for somebody to leave a high-control, destructive situation, and in the turmoil of their stages of grief, you could say, or through the confusion and cognitive dissonance that they experience and the discomfort that that generates, it's too much for them. They feel overwhelmed. They feel out of sorts. They feel like they don't have a stable base on which to hang their hat or walk through their path of life. And so they revert back to earlier patterns, right? Because they don't have anything that they can cling to or hold on to that keeps them stable now. This is often aided and abetted by cult members of their former group, or even the leader of their former group, as I believed is what kind of happened with Jessica after our interview. She was still under the influence of someone who, was not a real cool guy. And that's all I'm really going to say about that, because I don't really have a lot more to say about it. It's not really that important. In answering this question, though, it is important to note that when a person breaks free of or escapes from a destructive relationship, a narcissistic relationship, abusive household, even trafficking or job situations, as well as the coercive control that they experience in a high control or destructive cult group, any of those conditions can create that cognitive dissonance and that instability in the person and make them feel like, well, it was bad, but it's better than this confusion and chaos that I'm experiencing now. And they really just don't have anything else to cling to, or whatever is given to them or offered to them or whatever they get hold of, it doesn't quite click or snap into place the way that it should or that you'd want it to. And so they backslide back into that destructive situation. And of course, once they do, well, people have to be right. They have to be right about what they're doing. They have to justify or rationalize their behavior to themselves and to their group, because their standing in a group depends completely upon how well they can rationalize their position in the group. I mean, one wonders whether this isn't why the frontal lobes were invented or, developed or evolved in the first place, right? They weren't invented, but you know what I mean, is to help justify our social standing. And so when you go back to the group that you had reneged on and actually started, insulting and betraying, you're going to have to jump through some loyalty hoops, some tests. And one of those is going to be the active, blatant decrying of your former group or, your apostasy. So it's like, oh, I was a sinner and I've come back to the light now, and I saw the error of my ways, and I'm very, very sorry. And I was a sinner. This has 1,000 variations, but it's all the same tune. And it basically is, I got to get back in the good graces of the group that I have left. And when that group is a destructive cult or a controlling, abusive situation, it's sad. It's tragic, really. But it happens all too often. I have heard various degrees of percentages in regards to either backsliding or joining another group that's just as bad, even if it's different from the one they left. I think those are two different phenomena, but I think they fall under the same basic umbrella of backsliding or going back into a cultic belief set. People, there are people who just feel like they have to believe in something. it's a hard place to be for some people to just say, I don't know. To be able to say, it's okay with me that I don't know something, or that something's even unknowable at this time. Some people just can't go there. It makes them emotionally unstable to think that way. And so they have to have something. And they'll take something over nothing 100% of the time. And that's one of the motivators for that. There are a lot of other social motivators. I mean, losing familial connections or important ties hurts. And some people don't want that. And they can't deal with it. It's too much for them. It's overwhelming for them. And in the face of not getting therapy, not getting help, not getting education on what it was that defines this kind of activity, why it's bad for you, how you might have other coping mechanisms or other things you can do instead of going back to that group. I mean, if we don't get to the person fast enough, basically, and if they don't grok what they need to grok quickly enough, understand what they need to understand, then they'll backslide, right? And so this is why you see me talking so incessantly and so often about education being such a vital component of cult recovery. I personally, I just don't think it's possible to recover from a cult situation without getting the education of what happened to you and why it was bad for you and how that affected you emotionally, how it affected you psychologically, how it affected your thinking, how it affects your whole point of view about things and your biases. I mean, really taking this stuff apart is what it means to do the work of recovery. And some people just can't deal with that. And they need help, and they don't get the help that they need, or they get, they get negative help. They get people pushing them actively back into that situation. So anyway, a lot of different contexts there, a lot of different, situations as to why somebody might kind of backslide. But at the end of the day, I think it has to do with social influences, and I think it has to do with personal uncertainty and instability. And I think those are the things that cause that. And these are solvable problems, but not if anybody, in that situation doesn't know the answers to those problems. And that's why, calling the experts is sometimes the necessary thing to do. And there you go.